right, so today we are making some dog biscuits. And I'm going to be doing this right in a food processor. Just trying to fluff my flour up here. Each go around. You can pretty much put whatever you want. Sometimes I'll take rolled oats and grind them up in the food processor to make my own oat flour. But I happen to have some whole wheat flour on hand today, so I'm just going to use that. These are going to be some quick and easy, oops, you're not making a mess, you're not having fun. Quick and easy biscuits. Little biscuit treats for my pooch. All right, so I've got 3 cups of flour. I will need more because I am going to roll this out. I've got some peanut butter here that I am going to very carefully punch into there. And we'll get all that peanut butter in there. Okay. I'm going to add in 3 very ripe bananas. It's going to take a second for me to get all of these out. So sometimes I will, like I mentioned, do my own oat flour just by taking some rolled oats and grinding it down. I will also, for an extra special treat from my pooch, I will also sometimes take some leftover bacon grease and substitute out some of the peanut butter for that, so he gets, you know, a little bit of that, the smell of the bacon grease, which is always delicious for a dog, right? So if you have a pooch who doesn't fully enjoy peanut butter, you might want to just substitute out some of the peanut butter with some bacon fat. So I've got just an egg yolk here. It's just left over. I was making something yesterday and only needed the egg white. Don't want to waste that. And then I'm just going to put the lid on my processor here. A little fickle. There we go. And I'm going to just blend it all together. Up and give it a good scrape down because there's a lot of peanut butter up on the side walls. So I want that to get all incorporated. And then usually if it's super wet, I'll just sprinkle in a little more flour because I'm going to roll this out. So measure with your heart. See, oops, sorry about that. Yeah, so I'm gonna add just a little bit more. I do want this to kind of create a dough ball. Otherwise, you're gonna have to knead quite a bit of flour into it when you get it out of the bowl and start to roll. So I'm gonna let the processor do as much work for me as possible. And if you have a KitchenAid, you could do it in a KitchenAid as well with paddle attachment, but this really cuts through, especially with that peanut butter. Let's see, yeah, it's pretty sticky still. I'm just gonna keep going until this is pulling away from the sidewalls so that when I get ready to roll it out, oops, sorry about that. When I go to roll it out, it will not stick to everything. A little bit more. I can see it's still sticking to the sidewalls. We're getting there. And these are Gary, my Palm's favorite. It's starting to pull away. Perfect. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna grab some parchment paper and I will turn it out onto parchment and show you how to roll it out and cut it with a pastry wheel. And then I can bake it up. Okay, so I've got a piece of parchment down with some more flour and I'm going to get this out onto the parchment. I probably could use a larger spatula for this, but so I'll go ahead and get this out. Okay, so I've gotten my dough out of my food processor and cut myself on the blade in the process, so don't do that. And I'm just gonna kind of pull this together. It's actually not too bad, so I'm gonna move a little bit of this off to the side just in case I need it. Give it a little spanking. And then I'm going to just kind of knead this a little bit. And then I will pop it down. I'm gonna grab a clean piece of parchment. And then that way, if I need more flour, I can just grab it off this other one. Okay, so I've got a piece of parchment here. And I'm gonna take I'm just using a fondant rolling pin just because it doesn't stick. And I'm gonna roll this out. So once you determine that it's not gonna stick, then you can just take it and kind of start to rotate it. So the nice thing about parchment is that it doesn't stick. So I can literally roll this out into whatever shape I want. I find that when I use the pastry wheel, it's a lot easier to kind of try to do it in the a little bit like a square or a rectangle. And you can roll this as thick or as thin as you want. If it feels like it's sticking, you can just take a little bit of your flour and then just roll it out. And again, if it starts sticking, you can just add a little more flour. Okay. Okay, so I just took my baking sheet liner and cut it down to be the correct size for my baking dish here, my half sheet pan. And this is so that this will accommodate, and then my leftover scraps, I'm gonna just cut irregular shapes out of it so that I can bake it on a smaller sheet. And then that way, if I want to put my treats in, you know, like little Kongs or whatever, I have different sizes. Whereas this one here is just going to be for giving treats to my dog. Okay. So I just take this cute little fluted edge of my pastry wheel. And depending on how big you want, you can do some small if you're doing like training treats. My dog gets treats when he is a good boy and goes potty where he's supposed to, as well as when it's time to go to bed. He gets just a little treat to take to get into his crate. So I'm just gonna start cutting some strips here with that pastry wheel. And like I said, you can do whatever size you want. You don't have to be precise. Okay. And then let me get that out of my way. And then you can rotate it the other way and just start cutting strips going this way. And you can alternate, you know, between your sizes. And the reason why I do this is so that when they bake, that they have some separation between them. And they're kind of pre-scored for you. So again, just keep cutting whatever size you want. And then I'll just bake them at, you could do it at 325 or 350. You just want to cook them until they're golden brown, which is a little bit hard to tell because of the wheat flour. So just give them a test. Depending on how crunchy you want them is going to dictate how long you bake them for. So if you want them to be softer, then you will want to not bake them as long. But you're going to have to go in and feel and do a little test. Obviously, the bigger ones are going to take longer or be softer, and the smaller ones will be crunchier. So you can kind of do a mix if you want. No right or wrong way, just different ways. And then what I do after I bake them all up, I will divide them into freezer safe containers and just take out what I need. At room temperature, these are good for a week. So that's why I'll freeze them and just take out what I need for the week and then just keep replenishing. Especially if you're using the bacon fat, you're gonna definitely you know, want to keep those in the freezer. And that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these ready to bake. Okay, so I've got my full sheet here, and then I have some randoms here, and you can just leave these in the refrigerator until you're ready to bake them off. And then you can just take them straight out from the refrigerator into the stove, or if you're ready to go right away, then just bake them up. Okay, so into the oven these go. I'm going to bake them at 300 degrees, not 325 or 350, 300 degrees for about 25 minutes or until I'm happy with how crunchy the sides are. I like them to be a little bit tender in the middle, just so that if I need to snap one in half, I can. And also depending on, you know, if you have a little dog or if you have a big dog. I have a little dog, so I tend to break these in half for him. But yeah, into the stove we go. All right, so our dog treats are out of the oven, and I'm just gonna come through and break them up. You can see how nicely they pull apart. Pastry wheel really works well for scoring. And you can hear that they're crunchy, but they're easy enough to break. So they're tender on the inside, nice and crunchy on the outside. That's it. I'm gonna bag these up. I will leave enough out for the week, and the rest I will put in the freezer. As I mentioned before, these are good at room temperature for about a week. So you'll just want to either put them in the refrigerator, which will last up to 3 weeks, or freeze them and just pull out what you need, which is what I do. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. Like and follow, subscribe for more goodies and sweet treats for you, me, and Fido. Enjoy.